How's the real estate market? So that's this week's question on Martini Monday. Cheers. I gave a presentation earlier this week to our brokerage about the state of the real estate market. How's the market, if you like? Looking at the past, but also more importantly, perhaps looking forward to see what 2019 and 2020 brings. It was well received. So what I thought I would do is give you a synopsis of that video here. In the link below, you'll see a link to the video and also the presentation deck if you want more details. But here's the executive overview. I split it really into 4 sections. First of all, I looked at the past. Clearly, it's been a very buoyant market. Sellers have seen prices rise. Buyers are struggling to find that home because it's so much competition, caused primarily by buyer confidence. Since the recession, 2012, 2013, the buyers put the recession behind them. And ever since then, we've seen a very strong buyer market, but also a change in demographics. We've seen the baby boomers start to think about downsizing. We've seen the millennials starting to think about their first-time home, and both those groups are competing with one another in the same markets. And that's what's caused much of the price increases we've seen, specifically in those closer in towns, perhaps those more affordable towns, Arlington, Somerville, Melrose, for example. So that's the past. What about the future? So there's a couple of things we've got our eye on at the moment. First of all is the likelihood of an economic downturn. Clearly not a recession, maybe just a correction in the market. To some extent, the timing we don't understand. We don't know when it's going to be, but actually that doesn't really make any difference. Once buyers and sellers have the perception that there is going to be a correction, the prices are going to shift, it's likely to just happen because of that. So we don't necessarily need to see 3 quarters of negative growth. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for the buyers and the sellers to change their attitude, if you like, to the market. Couple of other things, or one other thing that's really key is interest rates. We see that it's rising. We've seen that in 2018. It's also going to rise in 2019, perhaps as high as 5.5% in 2019, and maybe even 6.5% as we get into 2020. So that's a relatively high number. The other thing we've seen, specifically in the higher priced homes, we've seen a number of sellers staying put. We're seeing sales decline, in fact. Sellers are staying in put, aging in place, if you like. But we're also seeing a number of investors, sometimes home sellers becoming landlords, but a number of investors investing in the market because they see the market's very strong. So what does that mean as we look at 2019 and perhaps even beyond? So get to the kind of prediction side of it, if you like. We think the seller's market is going to soften. We don't know when that's going to happen, but certainly sometime in 2019. If that happens, it's likely that the supply of homes will rise as sellers who have been staying put, waiting for this to happen essentially, start entering the market. So we should see supply rise. As well as that, we should see less buyers as buyer confidence begins to decline, specifically in the first-time home buyers as interest rates begin to rise. And so it's likely as we move forward in 2019 that price appreciation we've seen will begin to stall. And in some markets, it may even decline, but that's really going to be outside 495. And there's a big question about whether that will actually happen. So what does that mean for buyers and sellers? Buyers first, you really need to work with an agent who understands the local market because it is going to be different in a close-in town with a strong school system, a town that's further out, a town that's got a lower price point, a town that's got a higher price point. So it's very important that the agent you work with understand what's going on in that town. Also, with prices beginning to soften, perhaps inspections becoming more common, you need to be working with an agent who can negotiate prices and can negotiate inspections. So those are 2 key things that we'll see different as moving forward. For the sellers, softening market means best-in-class marketing is a must. You really need best-in-class marketing, the right exposure for your home, because there's going to be competition. You really need to shine above everybody else. And finally, accuracy of pricing is important. Specifically, even today, but specifically moving forward, you really need accurate pricing because if you overprice, you're done essentially. So that was the kind of synopsis of the presentation. As I said, below there is the link to the full video as well as the slide deck. So if you have any interest, take a look below. So that's Martini Monday for this Monday. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.